Hi, everyone, and welcome to Beyond Care, where we shine a light on the people, programs, and innovations that make caregiving more meaningful. I'm your host, Annika Dhariwal, co founder of Learn to Care. One of the most profound moments in caregiving is being there at the end of someone's life, especially of those living with dementia. It's a stage that calls for extraordinary empathy, presence, and understanding. And how do we prepare caregivers to walk this journey with both compassion and confidence? My guest today is someone who helped the world see dementia through a deeply human lens, PK Beville, founder and CEO of Emeritus of Second Wind Dreams, the visionary creator of the Virtual Dementia Tour, and the force behind empathic transitions and the Dementia Doula certification. PK, welcome to Beyond Care. So happy to have you here today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So I'd like to start by asking, how can home care agencies train caregivers to provide truly compassionate end of life care for clients with dementia?
It's a difficult topic no matter what. We live in a death phobic society. I think even in the time that I've been a death doula, it's been exciting to see how things are beginning to grow. And the fact that Learn to Care is taking a little step forward to help make this more acknowledged by our field. Sadly, it's not as acknowledged as it needs to be because we know that for those of us in a home care network or work, most of our clients are going to die while we are in the process of caring. But yet, we don't see many death care protocols. We don't see any training on how to prepare the caregivers, whether they're family caregivers or professional caregivers, and what to do at the end of life. So what ends up happening is the family is afraid, the caregivers don't know quite what to do, and this poor person with dementia is laying there with very little emotional support. One of the things that we really know clearly about death is that there are, even with dementia, they are aware of the touch, they're aware of the presence. They may not understand what's being said, but they do know what it feels like to have someone right there.
Mhm.
So, for home health and healthcare agencies, the importance of being able to acknowledge and train towards that end of life care is essential. There have been so many times in my career that I have been in a situation where families are afraid to be at the bedside of someone with dementia. I've many times seen families when I've come in to help assist, sitting on the opposite side of the room than the person
Mhm.
lying in bed trying to pass away. This is an incredible opportunity for the families and the caregivers, professional or not, to be able to hold them, to touch them, to talk to them, to play music, to guide them. Because a good death is nothing more than allowing the body to be the guide. Let the body take its time. And a person with dementia dies a bit differently. So,
Mhm.
training on how different that death is also important.
Yeah, I really agree with those points. And I guess hopefully in the future, the industry is going to take more steps to kind of make this a standard procedure because it sounds like it isn't really right now.
No, it's not. In fact, there have been I have not run across a
Mhm.
home health or home care agency that actually does have death care protocols and
Wow.
death care training programs. Haven't run across it yet. And only a few of the elder care communities that we serve actually have a formalized death care plan. Of
Right.
course, when a person enters either home health or anywhere along in the long-term care continuum, we try to do the business of getting all the paperwork in order. You know, the DNRs, the final resting place, and all of those things. We hope that are all in order, but that's just paperwork. That's nothing. That's
Mhm.
nothing compared to the presence, to use your terminology, that has to happen when a person is letting go of this world.
And kind of just gravitating a bit towards skills. What specific skills or mindset shifts should agencies emphasize when preparing staff to support dying dementia clients?
Well, remember, death is not a medical problem.
Mhm.
Death is is a natural occurrence in a person's life. And so I think shifting that mindset from it being a problem or, something that we need to provide nursing care for.
Mhm.
Actually, the when it comes down to the final hours, and of course there are three stages to me to a person with dementia's death. There's advanced dementia, there's transitioning, and there's active dying.
Mhm.
All three of those with dementia brings together needs special skill sets. So one of them for advanced dementia is learning how to connect with a person who doesn't communicate back. It's so hard. The human mind doesn't like to talk to people who aren't able to talk back.
Mhm.
And so we automatically have a tendency to shut down and just completely ignore. It's not intentional. We have to learn not to, and instead begin to engage. And we have lots of methods here at Second Wind Dreams that teaches how to engage a person with advanced dementia. And then in transitioning, it's the skill set. If you don't have empathy and you're not comfortable with a dead body or a dying body, then you don't need to, we don't, that's not going to be a good fit with this. It needs to be someone who can acknowledge that this is a body's laboring towards eternity or laboring towards shutting down. And I'm very careful about the people that I accept into my dementia death doula classes because I interview them in advance. They have to fill out an application. And
Mhm.
if I don't feel that empathy chip going off in their brain, then they're just not going to, this isn't going to work. And when I train long-term care providers on how to develop death care programming,
Mhm.
I'm very clear about the qualifications and characteristics of the people who will actually be able to head up that kind of program.
Right.
So when it comes to actively, or when it comes to transitioning, those are the people you want there, those people. And then actively dying, it needs to be someone who, again, is comfortable with that dying process, but also knows how the body shuts down.
Mhm.
Because being a caregiver, if you're not a family caregiver, it's so important that we be able to offer to the family, okay, so this is what's happening, and this is the wisdom of the body, and we're going to take this hour by hour. I can't give you any guarantees. So, see,
Mhm.
that person needs to be someone who knows what's happening to the body. And also, it needs to be someone after the death that knows how to straighten the room, comfort the family, situate the bed, do all of the things that needs to happen with that. So the qualifications of all three boil down to that empathic chip, but each one of those requires that empathy to be at a different level.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That sounds very interesting. And I mean, specifically the empathic chip, I think that's just so important, especially when dealing with such a sensitive topic. And I couldn't imagine a person that, because there are people, human beings who aren't empathetic. So I can only
Absolutely.
imagine how that would not be a very smooth process if it was
Yeah.
someone who's not qualified, because it seems to be there's a lot of different factors that need to accumulate into the person to be able to deal with this well.
Absolutely. I've seen so many, and I've not seen it once. I've seen it many times where the caregiver who doesn't have that chip in their brain goes in and just in a very insensitive way begins to try to turn a person who's actively dying
Hmm.
and causes pain and it doesn't seem to bother them. I really have a tough time with that. When it comes to the end of life, we want to do as little as necessary to disrupt. The mind is doing a lot of work when it's exiting. And, it's firing on a lot of cylinders that hadn't been fired in a while. So I think it's important for a person providing that care to, if they don't have that chip, they shouldn't even be coming in the room.
And how can agencies help caregivers emotionally process loss when clients with dementia pass away?
Well, it's fascinating. This has to happen more and more. You know, caregivers, family and otherwise, are so attached to that precious
Mm.
body that's right there. It's a loss for them, a terrible loss for the families, but a loss nonetheless for the person who's been providing care. That if that person that's been providing care needs an opportunity to grieve. If we don't give them the opportunity to do that, studies show that it will engender depression, and it will also cause them to put a hardened uh, affect to their body so that they don't get so attached. And we want them to be attached. So it's critical that we give them an outlet for that. And there are so many ways that we can do that. One way that I see happening more and more, and that we train for, is having a quarterly memorial. I
Mm.
don't care for seeing after the death a picture of the resident uh, with, a passing a a candle right in front of the
Mm.
picture, basically suggesting that this person has just passed away. I That's not a recognition for staff or caregivers or home health. It's just not. So, a quarterly meeting that honors the residents who pass away that during that quarter.
Hmm.
There have been many times that we have had ministers come in and perform that piece. Also, recommend that the staff writes something down about that person, home health staff and regular staff members, so that it can be read at the memorial, including the staff in the memorial. All these things, now some do things like they, like in the VA homes, they drape the body with the service that they were in, Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marines, and they take them out the front door so that the everybody can salute and pass that person on. Other places do things like have a monthly meeting.
Hmm.
Again, just not crazy about just putting a picture up with a candle. That's just not going to do it. So we have to have that outlet.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel so I was recently at one of the home care conferences and I heard like a caregiver panel, and that's where I heard caregivers really talk about their like day-to-day experience with caregiving and specifically how attached they get to whoever
Yeah,
they're caring. And I mean, I guess that's the only way to provide the best quality care as well,
that's right.
is if you're attached. So I guess it's just so important that agencies are being sensitive to their workers and not treating it
Yes,
like as if it's just it is a part of the job, but it's not a really very ordinary job. It's quite a unique job where there's a lot of different factors that agencies should be considering on how they're supporting their workers.
agreed. Agreed. And I think eventually it will become the norm that this
Yeah.
is a part of the working of the elder care communities and of home health. We have a home health agency here in Metro Atlanta
Hmm.
that does a really good job of having their home health workers come in on a regular basis, and they have a really nice with food and family and all of that that come in and honor the people who have passed away. And they do an excellent job of that. And there needs to be a lot more of that.
And kind of just building on to supporting caregivers, are there any ongoing support systems? I mean, we already mentioned a few, but like such as debriefs or counseling that agencies could provide for their care teams after these experiences?
Sure. There are a lot of grief support groups
Okay.
that are important, and a caregiver has lost someone just like, not just like, but close to a family member.
Yeah.
They should be joining these grief support groups. Daughterhood, the podcast, and daughterhood.org is a great one that allows caregivers to come in and be a part of learning how important the grief process is for them. And that makes them a better worker and a stronger staff member. So yeah, it's out there. Of course, I'm a psychologist, and of course, I do counsel family members and caregivers frequently. And I think there needs to be more of that out there. And it needs to just be done in if it's in a group setting, here's the interesting thing. You want different people at different stages of grief to be in
Mm,
that group setting because they mentor one another. And it's beautiful when that happens.
wow.
You don't want everyone in there at right after the death or closely after the death.
That makes sense because otherwise it might create a bit of an imbalance as well in
It
terms of.
does. It does. Yeah.
PK, thank you so much for sharing such
You're so
thoughtful
welcome.
and compassionate approach to what I would say is one of the hardest parts of caregiving. Your work reminds us that end of life care isn't just about comfort, it's about honoring life, connection, and dignity until the very last moment. To our listeners, if this conversation touched your heart or offered a new perspective, share it with another caregiver who might need to hear it today. And don't forget to follow Beyond Care for more stories that celebrate the strength and humanity of caregiving. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care of yourself, everyone.
Thank you.